Welcome back to Mindful Endeavors. I am joined here today, but with Captain Wildlife. Really quick disclaimer, as always, just make sure everybody understands that we're talking about topics of in the mental world. I mean, in the mental health topic, and we want to make sure that everybody just kind of like takes it with a grain of salt. And we're not mental health professionals. We're just kind of here talking about our experiences, what we see in society, from our point of view, and talk about potential things that help us or just things that might potentially help somebody, and also talk about the outdoors as a potential solution. So let's keep that in mind. But yes, Captain Wildlife, really good dude. I met him through the fishing community. He basically, the way it started was he invited me into a little online tournament that we had set up, and that's how it started. So yeah, so you want to introduce yourself a little bit more?
Yeah, so my name is Matt. I'm from Quebec, Canada. I'm French, as you can notice with my accent. I am very passionate about the outdoors since forever. I've been involved in a couple tournaments, like you mentioned. And otherwise, I've been to school in wildlife. I have a professional degree in wildlife protection as well as forestry, where I learned a lot of different skills and information you need when you go in the wild. So, and then I moved back to the city, and now I'm a Zamboni driver. It's as Canadian as it gets. But yeah, it's fun, and it gives me a lot of time to go fishing and go in the wild because in Quebec we have the most incredible wildlife you can imagine. So it's a pretty nice playground for me here.
Yeah,
I have a lot of fun.
you post a lot of great pictures of like the outdoors. So yeah, like I can only imagine like how much better it is actually being there in person. So yeah, like it's one of the things like I do enjoy about your page because yeah, like I said, we met in the fishing community, but you do post a lot of outdoor stuff, and I mean, you've even showed me the bear tenderloins that you've been eating, man. That just looks super tasty. So
Yeah. I try to show the most beautiful side of nature, and like most people don't stop like and smell the roses and just enjoy what they're doing really, because it's very soothing for the soul to just stop and watch, listen to the waves and just the birds. I don't know. It's very therapeutic for me. It's a great therapy.
I know, yeah, I agree, 100%. Especially because when COVID first started happening, we had to do the lockdowns, right? I mean, here in the states, Texas was one of the last states to lock down. But once it happened, I had really nothing to do because I mean the gyms were closed. Before that, I spent a lot of time, maybe like 2 to 3 hours at the gym, just working out,
Yeah.
all this stuff. So that void was empty. And then not to mention that my family lives in California, so I had to worry about them because the restrictions were a little bit harder over there. And it was just, a lot of things were coming in and out of my head, and it was just bad. But I started fishing during that time, and that's when I really started appreciating the outdoors. Because now, like, I used to hike a little bit before, like before I started fishing, especially in California, but I wasn't so like involved into like the outdoors as I am now. Like now, like I'm a huge outdoors advocate for like basically, like what you're saying. Like it's very soothing. I want to get that message out there that it's different from what you see in pictures, and you have to really experience it more for yourself.
Yeah, because when you have mental health issues, sometimes, well, the best is to go see a professional. But sometimes your head is like full of negative thinking, and you're just in this pattern that you cannot get out of. And just going in the wild, or doing some hike or photography or fishing or anything really that just takes the mind off the negativity and brings you back with nature, which is true and pretty and beautiful. At the same time, it's really, nature can be scary and really unforgiving, but it's what makes it true, makes it really beautiful, and you want to respect it and live with it. So like it's so much bigger than us. So you just have to go there and enjoy, and you cannot. It takes you away from all the negativity around. There is nothing like this in the wild. You are just free. It's incredible. Really, yeah.
Yeah, and for me, it's a huge transition because I grew up in LA, and it's basically a concrete jungle over there. So
Yeah.
there's, I mean, if I went to the beach, I mean, growing up, I didn't go to the beach often. It was only after like a little bit, like I think once I started being able to drive is when I was able to actually go to the beach. So it was a little break from just being surrounded by nothing but concrete. But yeah, and like you said, like there's a lot of negativity, and we, for some reason, as humans, we tend to kind of focus more on negativity than we do on positivity, and that's one of the things that I kind of came into realization that I tend to do that a lot, and I've gotten better at it. And honestly, like it's a very like with the outdoors, it's a very meditative process if you know how to, like you said, respect it and appreciate it. It's a very meditative process. Like it's just, granted, like you said, also like it can be very brutal, and nature tends to be very brutal. But
Yeah.
you just have to know how to respect it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. It has boundaries. You have to respect it. Otherwise, if you go too far, you have a lot of examples in the news. People go into ice and like they fall, or they go too close to a waterfall, and things like that, or they fall off a cliff. You have to be really respective of nature and know the boundaries and not cross them,
Yeah.
because
Like, did you see that one video with the guy that was on a hike, and then he got like was basically being chased with by a mountain lion and for like 6 minutes, and he was just kind of like backpedaling until he was able to get away. But you know, stuff like that happens.
yeah, and some people will just like, try to film it and approach it. They might get bitten.
Oh no, man! Yeah, like that's the
Yeah,
thing. That's the thing I was talking about with the different guests on. Well, actually, he came out on my podcast, but I was on his podcast the other day, and we were talking about that. Like, for example, giraffes. Like the like a lot of people think that because like giraffes, like they're like one of the few wild animals that will let you pet them, like as a human. And people
yeah,
think they're really nice, really gentle, but when you see them out in the wildlife, they're not so much. Like they're not really gentle with each other. I mean, they're still, you still have your like your male like that's your bull giraffe that wants to make sure he's the one that's reproducing, so he's killing off other males, and they can get brutal with each other. It's a strange thing about nature, but it's like we got to know that we got to like understand it and make sure that we don't like misunderstand it, because you know we have to like
yeah. And it's a bit like this for us too. If you go too far in your boundaries, you might get hurt, and you have to know yourself and respect yourself too. It's exactly the same.
yeah.
So when you live with nature and its ways, not the ways of men, that sometimes can be not really good, but in the ways of nature, it's you have to respect it. Otherwise, like it's unforgiving. It's like that for yourself. If you don't forgive, if you don't take care of yourself, it will be unforgiving.
Yeah.
So you will be in that spiral of negativity, and just it keeps going worse, because like negativity, like it would tend to be a magnet to negativity and attract some more. So like the more you are negative, the more you will be, and once you like snap out of that spiral, it's when it gets better. And for me, the wild was a good way to snap out of that bubble. Just like, wow, the world is beautiful instead of all this negativity and darkness. It's so full of light, full of color, and so how can you be like negative when you are surrounded of such greatness? It's what I think every time I go in the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that has probably been a little bit worse when it came to social media. I was reading somewhere that apparently like mental health issues started going up the more the we started like relying on social media. Like the more we relied on social media, the more mental health issues and like depression and stuff like that, they got higher as well. And it's really tough, like for some people, because it's kind of hard to get out of that circle. And then also too, you got to make sure that you surround yourself with at least not necessarily like people that are like super happy, super all this stuff, but at the very least, people that are not negative, because you've heard that saying, misery loves company. So like one person is negative, they project that negative energy out to the world, and then it's easy for another person to catch on to that. So
and to you, so it will affect you if you surround yourself of negative people. It will affect you, because they will try to kill any dreams you might have, or they will say like, oh no, it's not possible, or it will be hard, or yes, it will be hard. So what? So like, if you surround yourself with positive people, they will say, yes, it will be hard, but do it anyway. It's going to be fine. You're going to have fun.
Absolutely.
And they're going to help you if they can. That's how it works. When you surround yourself with positive people, it attracts positive to yourself, and it helps you a lot.
Yeah, and you get a lot of good energy from it, and it makes you like it makes you want to do more. I mean, at least that's my experience. Like when you're surrounded by people that like it kind of like there's plenty of examples. Like for example, like when it comes to fitness, like or something like that. Like you're surrounding yourself with somebody that's working out. Eventually, you will catch that same bug, and you'll want to work out, and then you enjoy it. And then you kind of pass that on. And same thing with like just thinking positively of the world. I know, and granted, like obviously this podcast, I'm trying to make sure that we don't involve any politics, but at least right now what we're seeing with like people, like when they engage in politics, they tend to go around with the people that talk about the most conflict, and that's what they're around all the time. And then it just kind of snowballs from that point. So it's one of those things where we just have to make sure we know, like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with like being aware of what's going on in the political world. There's nothing wrong about being aware with like certain conflict and things like that. But yeah, it's important to be able to detach yourself from that and not make it like your identity. Because I think that's what a lot of times is causing people to really just keep going down this rabbit hole of just conflict and all this stress, anxiety, and all this other stuff. Like you really want to make sure you can detach yourself. And that's one of the things for sure I learned. Like it was a hard lesson for me to learn, because I was never a person that got offended really easily, but I did let a lot of things like stress me out pretty easily. So I had to kind of learn how to like detach myself from that. Like, hey, this is not part of me. Like even like certain, like for example, in social conflicts, like you may have an argument with someone. I was still thinking about it, even though like I'm not seeing that person ever again. So I'm never gonna.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You will think about it for the next month or so. You will be like, oh no, I said this a month ago, or it's like it's useless. Like it's done. What do you want to do about it?
Yeah, like the other person is not losing sleep over it, so why should I?
Yeah.
Like it's easy to really get into that.
People will not think about you this way. They will go to sleep and forget you. So you should do the same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, you basically like you just need to get on with your life, like, and that's one of the things where you kind of need to oftentimes like if you have stuff going like because I mean there's people obviously that are in really stressed situations, so it's kind of hard. It's harder and harder to like pull themselves out because you have less positive things to really help you pull yourself away from the depression. But like there's also a bunch of people that have a lot of good things going for them, but because the one thing that upsets them is just overshadowing all that stuff, you don't know how to appreciate what you have, like things like family, things like other stuff, like being able to fish at all, things like that so it's one thing that I definitely learned how to basically get in that mindset, and it definitely helped.
Yes, and you have to keep going even if it makes you anxious. Even if you are anxious, or you will make up excuses in your mind. I cannot do this because of that, or this, or I'm not good, or it's not real. Like what we are doing right now is stressful to me. I have social phobia since forever. Public speaking is new to me. I have never done this before, and it makes me very anxious. It's way out of my comfort zone, and it's exactly why I said yes doing it. You can do it, even if it makes you anxious. You can do it. Like, this is a podcast not in my native language. I have never done this before. Like, we know each other by mail or by Instagram. Like, so everything is set up so I can be uncomfortable, and it's exactly why I said yes. Like, you have to push yourself, keep doing it.
Yeah.
If it makes you anxious, it's all right. You can do it anyway. I'm doing it right now. So you could do it too. There's nothing stopping you except yourself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And even like for me, like I'm not good as a public speaker, but I've been told that I can talk really well, but just being in front of people is usually what, gets me nervous. But even when I first started the podcast, like the first episode, like I was already like dreading it, and I was just like, oh my God, like, and I was legitimately sweating, like just how nervous I was. Like I was sweating on the episode. I'm just like kind of going like this all the time, like wiping down my forehead. I got lucky that my friend who got me into doing the podcast, he had already had podcasting experience, so he kind of helped carry that conversation. But I mean, at this point, I'm able to carry it myself, and I mean, I got over it, like you said. Like, you got to essentially be up for the challenge, and it's okay to fail. If that's another thing too. Like, it's okay to fail. There's nothing wrong with failing. Especially when it's something that's just like as simple as like, okay, my next challenge is to be able to speak in front of somebody or in front of us, some kind of medium. Like, yeah, I mean, if you fail, it's fine. Perfect.
And you have to like find challenges like that you want, like not something that other people want you to do that you find uncomfortable. If other people want you to do stuff like you don't want to, there's no really point of doing it.
Right.
But anyway, you can do what you want. But what I'm doing is I try to do what I want to do, even if anybody like tells me, oh, it's going to be hard, or it's going to be this or that. I have nothing to do with that, because I think it's possible to do it. Even if whatever is just a challenge, you need to pick a challenge, and it's very, very rewarding to like overcome fears like social phobia. Like speaking right now, I'm overcoming a fear right now. I'm searching for my word because I'm French, but that's okay. I'm doing it. I'm learning another language, right? So I guess I'm trying. So
yeah,
that's what everybody should do. Try, even if you don't know how to do it, just try.
Yeah. No, I definitely appreciate you coming on. That, because like you said, like, you told me like from the beginning, like, oh, I'm not good at public speaking, and English is my second language, and I definitely appreciate you still like rising up to a challenge and being on the podcast, because especially like we live in different countries, so I think it'd be pretty good to kind of like highlight more or less like, well, for one, like how nature is over there, which I'm sure is not a whole lot different, but I'm pretty sure we could also find a lot of differences between nature, in Canada versus nature in the U.S. And then, also the mental health stigma, which I'm pretty sure is different in Canada than versus here in the U.S. So, that's the main thing. Like, I really do think that we, at least here in the States, we do a very, very bad job in terms of how we discuss mental health issues. And you hear it all the time, like, people talk about like, certain aspects are attributed to mental health, but then the conversation stops there. It doesn't progress any more from that. Like, not even like, in the sense of like, well, what kind of things can we do to basically like help or identify sources that kind of deteriorate mental health. And a lot of times people think it's as easy as just throwing money at it or ignoring it. And that's where like this podcast, I hope, can help change that and help keep driving those conversations, because they can't just stop there. Like, they're not going to go away. If anything, they are going to get worse if we don't do anything about it. And it's not necessarily always like throwing money at something or providing resources, but it's mostly just like being able to talk about certain things so we can get to the bottom of why mental health has been deteriorating a lot. So with that said, man, like, so, one of the questions I do have for you is like, how is mental health regarded in terms of like the public, in the public space, like when it's talked about? Like, is it a conversation that does go on a lot, or is it kind of like only swept under the rug until something of like I don't know, like a mass shooting or some kind of like bad event? So
yeah, because here, well, it used to be like really pushed under the rug and we didn't talk about it, and it was really a taboo subject because like it was negative and people were like, oh no, can't talk about this. But the more it goes, and it's really better. Like, we are starting to speak about it, and we have ads on TV about it. Big companies do funding, but it's not just a matter of throwing money at it. It's really a matter of educating people, talking about it. It's really, really, really talking about it a lot. And we are doing it more and more, but I think we could do more. Mm-hmm. But it's better. Like, now we talk about it. So at least that's something I'm proud about. It used to be something like people were like, it was edgy and people wouldn't really care, and you have to be happy. But as we grew up, people realized it was really like a disease, like you need help. It's not something you can just like, just go out, it will be fine. Like, some people really need help. I was lucky enough to be helped by nature, but some people really need professional help. And so we need to talk a bit more about it and like show what is available to the public. But we are starting to do it. It's better than it was, for sure. That's for sure. And I'm really glad, because it's an issue that really affecting us, especially with COVID that's going on right now. Mm-hmm. The government announced a big investment in mental illness for the young. So that's good, because it's going to be better for the future, because COVID might like affect them. So yeah, it's getting better, really. I'm glad it's getting better.
Yeah.
We're not there yet, but it's getting better.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like at least you guys, especially in the social, like in society, just the social norm, you're slowly embracing the topic of mental health in terms of being discussed more. Here in the U.S., from what I gather, I hope that I'm wrong, but from what I gather, it's basically the conversation doesn't really go out as much. Like, even like, for example, with COVID, you had people arguing over masks, but then there was a bunch of suicides from the lockdowns because people lost their businesses, and the stigma behind that is like, oh, well, you just lost your business, get over it and start over. No, because some people are not equipped to handle mental stressors like that. It also doesn't necessarily mean that we have to like baby proof all the things for everybody, but it's really careless to assume that somebody is mentally adequate or mentally equipped to just handle things like loss of a job, especially when you have a family to feed, those kind of things. Like it's mental health is something that's really only talked about in certain situations here, which I wish the discussions never stopped. But again, that's from what I've gathered. And like I said, again, I hope I'm wrong. I hope that it actually is being discussed more, maybe at the local level, and it might be discussed on a state by state basis. But for example, with COVID, once the lockdowns happened, nobody talked about the unintended consequences of those, and there was a lot of like a lot of things just went up, like suicides, domestic abuse, child abuse, children going hungry because their only meal was the schools, and that was like where they got most of their nutrition. So we never talked about this. Instead, we just started arguing like, well, you should wear a mask. Well, no, you shouldn't wear a mask. And that may be a discussion that needs to be had, but that doesn't necessarily mean it should be the only discussion. And even now, like, you see small articles here and there talking about mental health, but it's not to the level of like where we're trying to address, okay, why are people's mental health, deteriorating even before COVID, because you see certain events, and again, not a political podcast, but just speaking chronologically, you see like school shootings, and the topic of mental health comes up, but then it just dies there. Like nothing happens after that. So it's like, okay, I want to see it progress. Like, what are you going to do? Like, what can we do? Let's have that conversation, but the conversation gets lost. That's the primary reason why I am pretty stubborn about not involving politics in this podcast, at least in these episodes, because I don't want to fall into that trap where the nuance of the discussion just gets lost again. That's not, yeah. So it's kind of, I'm glad that at least, in your country that there's at least, ads about mental health. There's been some ads here on TV, some commercials about, and then there's suicide hotlines. So, that's basically where we're at here as a country.
Yeah, we have like ads going on for COVID, like basically it's in French, but it's basically like people talking to the phone, and they're like, "Oh, take care of yourself," and then like the person hangs up, is like, "Oh, take care of yourself." Well, shit, I should take care of myself. Mm-hmm. And then it ends. So there's a hotline like to call if you need help, or so it's cool. They talk about it. So it's a long way. They used to like say nothing and put it under the rug, but now, especially with COVID, everybody like noticed. Everybody that everybody like has it's a disease, and it exists. It's not just lazy people. It's not people that find excuse to don't do this or that. It's a disease, like it exists, and it's cool that people acknowledge it and they spread it like to everybody. And that's why that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to normalize mental illnesses, like not like don't do anything about it, like normalize it, like talk about it. It's okay. Like you can seek help. Nobody's gonna judge you. At least they shouldn't.
Right.
Because it's normal. Like if you feel sick one morning, you call your job. You say, I don't feel well. I got sick this morning. They will say, all right, stay home. And if you call them the morning, you say, oh, I can't really get up. I'm really depressed today. They say, oh, put your socks on and go to work. It's like sometimes it's really hard. Like some people really don't find the strength to do those things. And the fact that we just say, go to work, makes those people feel even worse. The people that really need it.
Yeah.
So if we talk about it and normalize it, at least the people that really need it will feel like acknowledged.
Yeah, no, yeah, because the one thing that I do have hope here in the U.S. is that more people want to talk about mental health. The problem, I mean, it hasn't fully translated into more discussions, but I mean, if anything, that's probably the one thing that has changed over time, for at least from what I remember being of what I'm aware of, is that more people actually want to have the discussion like of mental health. And yeah, because the stigma, like you said, the stigma that, oh, you're just being a baby, just toughen up, like that
Yeah.
is something that is still alive and well, like that stigma. Because I mean, and that's the thing, like I've encourage people, like if they want to reach out to me to talk, at least to vent, they're more than welcome to, because like you said, like it shouldn't be something that anyone needs to really face alone. I mean, and it's okay to ask for help. I mean, there's nothing wrong with asking for help, especially in these matters, because these things, like, they can be tough to pull out of. Like, honestly, I've had a couple people in my life that I've lost to suicide, and it's really strange, because from what I remember, like talking to those two people, like those several people, they seemed fine. They seemed like they were okay and happy, or at least just not sad. And then next thing you know, they end up killing themselves for whatever reason, and it's like, and it's one of those things where it's like I've actually got into an argument with somebody because I told it was a mutual friend that we had, and I told him the situation, that how he killed himself and why, and that it just came out of nowhere because he was a guy that was well loved. We played soccer together, and he was a guy that was well loved. He had a girlfriend that loved him back and was very good to him, and he was good to her, at least from what she was saying. And then from one day to another, he just ended up taking his own life. So, we were all shocked, and he was just like, and the guy that I talked to, he was just like, "Oh, what a weakling!" I was like, "What?" Like, yeah, he took the easy way out. I'm like, dude, like, chill out, man, because it's a chemical. It could be a chemical imbalance. Like, that's how bipolar disorders like happen. It's a chemical imbalance in your brain, so you have no control over that. So you can't just say, "Oh, he was a weakling," because you don't know what really was going on in his head. Nobody really knows, not even his own family, because it became a shock to himself, to their family as well, because again, nobody saw any signs of him being depressed or him saying he wanted to kill himself. It just one day, boom, done. And I was just like, whoa, like, why? Like, especially this guy, like, this guy had everything going, and like, it was pretty sad. And that's one of the things that I do want to get away from, the stigma of like, you should just solve it on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It happened so quickly. Like, I've lost a friend myself a couple of years ago, and we had no idea. Like, it happened so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
We just didn't talk about it. Nobody knew. Like, it was so quick. So if you don't talk about it, how can people help? Like, everybody was devastated. Like, the pain was passed to everybody else, and we were so young, and the pain was passed to everybody else, and it's just, we were all there to help. Like, we could have helped. We could have done something if you just have called. We would have been there. If he had sent a text or whatever, like we were right there. Like, we could have helped, but
Mm-hmm.
we didn't talk about it because it was just too like something you don't talk about. But it's sad because we could have helped.
Yeah, it's not common, or at least because like, especially with us males, like uh it's even worse for us. Like, it's like, oh, why are you acting like such a girl? Like, and it's I was like, dude, it's not that. Like, you're talking about health. Like, mental health is an aspect of health. It's about being healthy. It's like, it's no different than a person that's overweight seeking, somebody to like, hey, how do I eat better? Or, how do I learn how to cook? It's no different than that. I mean, it's probably even more serious than that, but in the sense of being able to reach out for help, it's no different. Like, and that's kind of where I have seen that is getting a little better. The stigma is, we're moving away. And that's the thing where like I talk to people all the time and I tell them like it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to express your feelings in some shape or form. That doesn't necessarily, like at least for guys, that doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna demasculate yourself. It's just talking. Like you're okay to do that. You're more than welcome to do that. You should be at least.
Yeah, and this masculinity stuff is very toxic. Like toughen up and man up, and men don't cry and men don't have feelings. This is really toxic. Like it makes you like you don't want those feelings. Like if you feel sad, you will know a man can't be sad. But if you don't live those emotions, you will just they will like add up, and one time they will break, and then it will be like, why am I like this? Why can't I control myself? It's because you didn't live your emotion while they come in. You were just tough and you didn't cry when you were sad. You weren't angry with moderation when you were angry. And so like you need to live your emotion and express it. Like for me, I express it through the pictures I take, the moods and the poems I choose and the quotes. I try to express the moment, what I was feeling when I was there, and like it's a great way to like take these emotions out of my head and just not forget them, but just store them away from my mind instead of having them like cramped up in my little head, like they are out there. They're just thoughts instead of being like instead of controlling me. So like you said, you have to detach yourself and be just like, oh, okay, this is thoughts. They come, they go. They don't define me. I'll just live them. I'm sad, all right. So I'm going to be sad for a day or whatever, and then tomorrow I'm going to be happy, and it's part of life. So how do you know if you're happy if you are sad sometimes? You just don't have the contrast.
Yeah.
You need the differences. So if you're not sad sometimes, you will never know when you are happy.
Yeah, I mean, because like to kind of like talk about like what you said about like the masculinity, like for example, like you have your poems, you decompress yourself and everything, but you also hunt. I mean, I would consider hunting a masculine activity to a certain degree, but I mean, now you have women hunters either.
Not that masculine people. There's girls doing. My girlfriend loves it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah, like I mean, even though it was considered like a masculine thing for the longest time, now you have women hunters that are like out there, and I mean. Like the thing, I think it goes back to what I said earlier. Like the thing about like masculinity, people still think it's something that's like an identity, right? I don't think that I think that if you're you can be masculine, not toxic for sure. It's just the certain attributes that are toxic that can be yielded from like certain things like being like macho and like you said, toughen up and all this stuff and just shut the hell up and do it, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You have to like you really have to play it. Almost like a step-by-step process, because at the end of the day, like not necessarily every person has the same like they don't go through the same stuff. One person might respond really well to the outdoors, such as you and I, like we did. Another person, that might not help them. Like that's what I meant by what I was trying to say. Like not every person is the same. Like we're not all like one exact replica of each other. That's why I always also say the disclaimer, like if anything works for you from what we talked about, go ahead, feel free to use it. If it doesn't, I mean, and if you really need the help, go ahead and seek it. But yeah, like, it's just, we don't we think because of like, it's old thing to be like, well, you can't be sad, especially if you're a guy. You can't be sad because, it's just weak think or whatever. But I mean, there comes a times where you have to be sad. Like when you lose a relative, like how are you not going to be sad, especially one that's close to you or somebody that, you're close with, like in general? How are you not going to be sad about that? Like, I mean, it's one thing that if you can't cry, I mean, okay, fine, you don't cry, but you still feel the sadness, and you need those kind of struggles sometimes. Like, and I say that carefully because it's very, very, very sensitive, because obviously you can push someone too far and then that makes things worse. It's the same thing with like when you see like a lot of people on social media, they're basically just, like I see it a lot sometimes maybe in the fitness world where it's like, hey, like, you just need to shut up and do this and, all this stuff. And like that person, like somebody will react to like a swift kick in the butt. They might react that way positively. Other people, if you talk to them the same way, you're going to break them and drive them to worse depression. So it's like,
it depends who you talk to. If sometimes some people need that advice, like just get up and do it. But it's a sensitive subject. Like sometimes, like you say, you can break them. You should just encourage them to do things they love instead of like just do it. Just like try to know what they like and try to make them realize what they like and what they want to do that will stimulate them. Because most people want to do what other people expect them to do, or like they want to be like everybody because they feel they will be accepted, and they like. But it's not that. You can be different. It's good to be different. I've always wanted and felt different. Like I have long hair and I don't care.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you should do what you want to do. It's how you're gonna be happy. If you just do what other people expect you to do, you're gonna be unhappy. Because most of the time, what other people want you to do is for them, not for you.
Mm.
So, like, do what you want to do. There is no price to the joy of doing what you love every day. Like,
yeah,
I can't live for somebody else. My life, like,
yeah, no,
I just can't do it.
Yeah, nobody knows yourself better than yourself, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you should do what you want to do and not take anybody's advice unless you think it's good advice, and take it.
Yeah, there's definitely like a grain of salt that has to be taken, because like if somebody tells you don't do this because you can hurt yourself, well, then you got to be careful. Like, do I want to risk it or not? Then in that case, yes, you do have to listen to people. But when they're telling you like, oh, don't do this because you suck or you're never going to get any better. Like, no, like that, those people, you can tell them like, hey, get the hell out of here. I'm going to try it anyway.
Don't do this. It's hard.
Yeah, that is, and that too. Yeah. Especially that. That's the thing too. Like that. Yeah. Okay. If it's hard, so what? If it's hard and you quit, but I succeeded, then that just makes me feel a lot better. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll do anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And like that's the thing that I feel like social media can be very negative in that aspect, because, and then it's not, this part at least is not so much the social media aspect's fault. It's just the fact that like, for example, like we, you and I, like, we're trying to grow our pages on Instagram, and we see other people that are growing faster for whatever reason, and we think, hey, why am I not there yet? So now you're stressing yourself for that. Or we see people that want to tailor themselves in the same way that another influencer has done. Like they want to do replicate the exact same steps, and it's you're basically creating a copy of that person. So I think that's kind of like what happened. And it happens in a lot of things. It happens with like beauty. It happens with like with what is it, athletics, other stuff. I mean, it's one of those things where like you can respect someone, and yeah, like you respect with their hustle and everything, but you really should be trying to be your like the first you, not the next this person, you know? Like
Yeah.
that's really like where I feel like sometimes people get stressed out by that. Like, you know, and it's bad. So
Yes, like they you should do, like I said, you should do what you want to do. They will, if you copy other people, it might work, but at some point, if the other people succeeded, it's because they were original at some point. So it might work, but like if you stay true to yourself, it's good for your conscience. It's good for you, as it's what you are, not what you want other people to see. Instagram can be really, really bad for that, because like people will post a lot of stuff like they are not. They will like fake pictures, or they will do all kind of stuff like to be interesting, or but life is so much interesting that you don't need to fake anything to be interesting. And when you do this, you create like a false sense to other people. They will look up to you and try to be like you. But if you like do an unattainable success, they will be just more depressed. They will look at you and be like, why can't I be like this? Why can't I be like this? Because it's not real. That's why you can't be like this, because that's not real.
or
If
it's
you
not who you
show
are.
something real, other people can relate and be, I can't be like this. This guy is a real guy. I can be like this.
That's also true, yeah. I mean, because like even then, like even if you copy, like you said, even if you copy something else, I mean, there is such a thing as the law of diminishing returns. So, the more people you see copying that one original thing, the less people are going to be interested because it's just out there so much. So, like, yeah, you might like, you know, you have a person that you know started doing certain things this way, gave them a lot of success. Then you may have two or three people copying it, and it gives them success. But then after that, it's going to be, well, it's already the same thing that these people have already done. So it's not any different. So it's just going to be like, oh, you're just another person doing the same thing this person did. And like you said, like it might not work, and it might not work for a certain person because like you said, not it may not necessarily be real. Like we know that about social media, that it's a very tiny window into people's lives. It's not really you can't see exactly how they're living. But two, like also like it might not work for somebody because it's not who you are. Like, you know, if it's genuine to you, you know, yeah, you might still fail. I mean, that's always going to be a possibility, but when the times that you succeed, it's going to be even, the gratification is going to be a lot more because it's you. You know, you're the one that did this. You know, you may have gotten some motivation, some inspiration from somebody else's hustle, but you made it your own. Like
Yeah.
that's what I think people should, like, the mindset of, and that's just in anything really, like in business and you know, any kind of sports or whatever. Like, you know, I feel like you can apply it. I mean, the degrees of how you can apply it might change from activity to activity, but for the most part, I think it's something that can be applied to almost anything.
Yeah.
So,
So like there's there I don't sorry there's the sorry, I forgot the question.
oh no. So basically, I was just saying the thought that, you know, like, you just got to be genuine for yourself, like, because if you copy somebody else and
Oh
it
yeah,
might not
yeah, that's
work.
right. Right.
Yeah.
So if you stay true, sorry, if you stay true to yourself, it's original, so people can look up to you and like not necessarily copy you, but be inspired, and they will see like, oh, I can do this because it's real, and then they will do it on their own way, and it will be good for them because it's real and it's doable, and it's something that everybody can achieve. You just have to do it.
Yeah.
But it's so if you show like something that you are not, people will be confused, and that will leave them with a false sense of what like success would be if you are successful or whatever success is.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, all solid points. The best compliment I've ever gotten was from somebody that I met through a mutual friend. Like the mutual friend that we had, I met him in person. I worked with them before, but this guy that I met up in Seattle, I met him because of a online gaming community that we were in, and I met him there. And the best compliment I ever got to this day was when he told my buddy, like, "Hey, so I met Al. He's basically exactly the same way as he is on the internet." And I'm like, cool. And basically my buddy was just like, yeah, that's how he is. What you see is what you get. And I was like,
Yeah,
yes, best compliment
that's
ever.
how you should be. That's how everybody should be. What you see, what you get. It's how else you want to be. You are yourself. Everybody's different. So what you see, what you get. Like you said, your mother was right.
Yeah, man, because I can't project. That's I think that's probably why I would be bad at being an actor because I cannot sustain it for so long. Like just pretending something to be something that I'm not. Just I can't do it for so long. Like sometimes I contradict myself, but I mean it's just I'm a at the end of the day I'm a flawed human being, So that happens.
Yeah.
But who truly is a perfect human being? There's not many, if anything. So
What is perfect anyway?
that's true. That's definitely
Does it
relative.
exist?
It's relative. I would say it may exist for some people, but perfection for one is not perfection for the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The,
So
the idea of perfectness doesn't really exist because we have like our own vision of what reality is. Like we have our own vision depending on like our environment and how we grew up and how the way we see life. So it it all changed our mindset and it makes us original and different. So you should embrace that and like be what you are and what you were from the beginning. Like sometimes people are trying to live like somebody else's life and are unhappy. They are wondering why, but that's because they are just not themselves, right?
exactly. We're getting closer to the 1 hour mark. There is one other question I do have. Yeah, it flew by quick. There is one other question I do have for you, and that's around basically like how like antidepressants are they readily prescribed in Canada? Because kind of similar to how like in the U.S. They are prescribed pretty easily, like when we're dealing with like anxiety and stuff like that. But also, we do see a lot of commercials for a lot of these antidepressants and stuff on our TV. It's often to the point where you have like patients going into doctors and already asking them, "Can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this?" And it's like, okay, does that kind of similarly happen in Canada, like where you have like ads or is it really like our antidepressants?
Well, here it's illegal for pharmaceutical ads. They can't do ads for like the drug. They can't do ads for that. So like I see on the sometimes on the American shows, you have like ads saying like, oh, try this or try your doctor about this and
Yep.
ask your physician about this or that. But here they can't do it. So the only way like you can be prescribed is if you go to a doctor, and it always depends on which doctor you're gonna go. Like if you go to the emergency room, because here we have like free healthcare. The drugs are paid, but the care is free. But I have like an insurance and everything. If you go to like the emergency because you are in crisis or whatever, they will give you like those antidepressants, just like take this and go home and do this or do that. But if you go like to a psychotherapist or like like a medical professional, they will usually say like go take therapy and take this or that depending on which like mental illness you have. Like they won't sell you the drug. They will like give you a plan. Like you have to follow this and you go to your therapies and so like they don't advertise it like to like they do in the country. I see a lot of ads about all kind of things that they can't do this here. I don't know if they have a law about it, but I know they can't do ads at least that will suggest buying like this drug or that drug. They can't do that.
Yeah, I think there. Last time I checked, I think there's only two countries. Maybe, yeah. That's why I had to ask you. But I think there's only two countries that allow ads on TV for pharmaceuticals and stuff. And I think it's us, and then also I believe New Zealand. I think there's like I don't know if there's any more than that. I remember just those two off the top of my head. I don't know if New Zealand still does that. That was a long time ago. But yeah, so that's kind of something that I think here it's I don't know why that's a thing. I get it, that they're in business, so they're trying to sell a drug, but I don't understand it really. But I mean, it ultimately comes down to like I think we briefly talked about like education, based to try not to seek those options right away. Maybe potentially seek some other, like you said, therapy first, which is kind of a good thing. Maybe try that first before we go into like medications, because you have people that take antidepressant for their depression, and then now they have to take another antidepressant for the antidepressant, which is insane to me. I can never wrap my head around that. So it's something that
the pills won't the pills won't take the stressors away from your life.
Right. Like they don't make your outside factors go away. They just they kind of drug you, really. I mean,
Yeah. If
but
you go to a therapist, or at least you can learn how to cope with those feelings, and the medication can help them lower them maybe so they can be more manageable. Like sometimes people truly have problems like to manage their emotions. And personally, I don't take those. I don't like those because I think I can do this on my own. And but like sometimes people need it, but it should be paired with therapy. Or at least like something, because you can't just expect this to take this and feel fine and life is beautiful like in a bliss. You have to work on what your life is. Otherwise it's just basically drugging yourself instead of being better.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So last 5 minutes or so. I mean, I told you this was going to go by fast. But any final thoughts, any piece of advice you have for whoever's listening and watching?
I just wanted like to say that to people that anything you want to do, you can do it. Like you can be uncomfortable, you can be sweaty, you can stutter, you can be like confused like I was. It doesn't matter. Don't judge yourself. Other people might judge you, but don't do it. You can do it. That's what I wanted to say. You can do what you want to do.
Yeah, that's something good to leave off of. I mean, the only final words that I have myself is like I mentioned earlier, like we're not all the same. We're not all one monolith. I really hope that this conversation helps people at least get motivated to either seek help or try different things, try the outdoors. I always encourage that. One of the things that I started encouraging is not necessarily like when you seek like help, try baby steps. Like if it's really urgent where you may have like some kind of like suicidal thoughts or that kind of stuff, then yes, go straight to a medical professional. I'm not here to help. I mean, I can't help with that, like, but in the cases where it's like you're feeling depressed, I want to like, I want to be at least advocate then situations where there's still a good chance that you can manage it. Try replacing whatever negativity, whatever negative like factor that is, affecting you. Try replacing that with something positive. I mean, it is a little bit hard to do that right now during COVID, and obviously it varies from region to region, but I think there's definitely, I think that's the best place to start is to at least put something positive, something like, I'll be honest with you, something as easy as just changing my diet. Like that has helped me change my mood sometimes, like, and eating healthier, eating more like, more nutritious foods, like, that's helped. But yeah, that's basically the advice that I have. If if you can find something positive, hold on to it, build off of it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, that's an hour, man. I told you it was gonna fly by quick.
Yeah, man, that was great. I didn't think it would be that fast.
I told you there was gonna be a pretty good conversation. Really quick before we stop recording, so where can people find you? What mediums of social media do you have?
On Instagram, Captain Wildlife, and I'm also on YouTube, Captain Wildlife Outdoors. On YouTube, I haven't uploaded a lot of videos yet. I might do a couple more this winter because I sank my GoPro in the fishing hole. Now I got another one, and I'm getting more on that. But I'm on Instagram, Captain Wildlife.
I'll definitely put the handle, obviously, when I release the episode, and I think Captain is spelled CPT, right? _ wildlife.
Yeah.
Yeah. Captain is yeah. So like I said,
CPTN _ wildlife.
There you go. CPTN _ wildlife. Yeah. Yeah. And as always, you can always find me at New Age Alchemist. It's all one word, and same thing for YouTube and most of social media, just New Age Alchemist. Also too, man, make sure you guys follow this dude. Like, honestly, Matt is a good person, and you're gonna see a lot of awesome, beautiful landscape pictures, and as well as a lot of like fishing and hunting stuff. So definitely a true outdoorsman. All right, Matt.
Thank you, man. It was great.
Yeah, thank you for being here, and actually, overcoming your fear of public speaking, and I think it went really well.
Thank you, man. It was great.
All right, cool. See ya.